Y&R Spoilers reveal Damian sees through Dumas' weakness, plans to turn the tables, kidnaps Lily to threaten Dumas into following his demands. Dumas is losing control as he still can't forget Lily. It seems that the space itself carries within it something uneasy, suspenseful, premonition of a night that will forever change the fate of many people. The Friday the 13th party that Dumas organizes quickly becomes the talk of Genoa City, because everyone who receives the invitation feels the hidden challenge, even a hidden declaration of war from the new owner that few people really know about his true identity. Many rumors about Dumas' true identity appear, making the party both lavish and terrifying. The line between lies and truth gradually blurs as the night falls. Lily, with the keen intuition of someone who has experienced too much trauma, senses the instability in the voices, looks and gestures of the people around her. She tries to blend into the bustling atmosphere, but her mind is always filled with doubts about the return of a man who once shattered all her trust. The mysterious appearance of Dumas recently, along with the familiar signs that Lily cannot deny, has made her heart tremble and angry. She remembers every fragment of her marriage with Cain, every promise and cruel lie she has suffered. It is this experience that makes Lily sharper than ever, determined to expose the true face of the man who is playing a dangerous game with everyone, even if it means facing her own wrath and the judgment of society. Meanwhile, Kyle, amidst the glitzy crowd of the upper class, was filled with his own fears. His father's warnings about Dumas still echoed, and the haunting image of a nightmare he could face began to take shape more clearly than ever. Kyle realized that if what he sensed was true, it would shake not only himself, but the entire Abbott family, and the overlapping relationships in the Genoa City business community. The Dumas party was not just a glamorous celebration, it was like a trap set up, where anyone could fall prey to a larger conspiracy than they had imagined. The atmosphere of the party became chaotic and tense from the very first minutes when the guests appeared one by one in their splendid costumes. The brilliant chandeliers reflected on the sparkling glasses of red wine, laughter mixed with secret glances. In the corner of the room, Billy could not hide his unease. He knew very well that any unusual event happening in Genoa City would have unpredictable consequences, especially when Dumas's name still had many mysteries that had never been revealed. In a moment, the melodious music was interrupted by the dramatic appearance of Dumas, the host of the party, with a mysterious smile and cold eyes. Everyone turned towards him, a series of mixed emotions rising in their hearts. Curiosity, caution, fear, but also excitement. With a confident gesture, Dumas raised his glass to celebrate and declared that tonight would be a night no one could forget, a night of revelations, of truths and secrets exposed. Every word seemed designed to stimulate the curiosity of the crowd, at the same time creating invisible pressure for those who were holding secrets in their hearts. Lily was almost stunned when she heard Dumas's voice, feeling creepy when she recognized the familiarity in every tone, every facial expression, even though it was cleverly hidden. In an instant, she understood that the man standing in front of the luxurious living room was none other than Cain, her ex-husband, who had disappeared without a trace and now returned in the form of a rich businessman with a completely new identity. The anger and resentment that surged made Lily want to rush to expose Cain's true face right in the middle of the party, but she understood that any hasty action at this time would only make her a laughingstock for the crowd and lose all credibility. Instead, Lily chose to observe, step by step approaching to collect more evidence and wait for the most appropriate time to expose the truth. Not only Lily, Billy also began to realize the abnormality in Dumas' words and actions. With the experience and intuition of someone who had experienced many business battles, he felt a potential danger lurking around here. He exchanged furtive glances with Jack, Victor, and his confidants, who knew that if Dumas really was Cain, all their plans and power could be turned upside down in the blink of an eye. As the party reached its climax, the atmosphere became extremely tense. Dumas began to lead the story with metaphors about betrayal, about trust and forgiveness, as if he wanted to send a private message to someone in the room. The crowd began to stir, whispers arose everywhere, all eyes turned to Lily, because everyone understood that only she had enough reason and courage to confront someone who had hurt her so deeply. Suddenly, Lily stood up, her eyes blazing with anger, her voice booming like thunder in the silent room. Although no one said it out loud, everyone could feel the storm of emotions exploding inside her. Lily could not bear it any longer. She decided to expose the truth about Cain, recounting every painful detail of the past, the wounds that had never fully healed, and the true nature of the man with two masks. This revelation made the whole room go silent, all words and all eyes turned to Dumas, or rather Cain, waiting for the next reaction. The chain reaction quickly spread. Victor, with the courage of a seasoned boss, stepped forward to question Cain about the true purpose of hiding his identity and returning to Genoa City when the forces were at their fiercest. Jack was calmer, but could not hide his confusion when faced with a truth that could change the entire situation of the Abbott family. Kyle, with his fear now becoming a reality, could only silently watch everything unfold before his eyes. He understood that from this moment, nothing would be the same again. Meanwhile, Billy, already suspicious and fearful, was now even more tense, because he realized that the truth about Cain also brought with it many other potential dangers, not only for himself but also for those he loved. Danny and Christine, familiar faces who have just returned to Genoa City, witnessed the whole scene with an indescribable feeling, both curious and worried for their old friends who are facing a major turning point in their lives. When all the masks are stripped away, the lavish party immediately turns into an arena of emotions, where love, hatred, betrayal, and the desire to forgive tear each person apart. Each person has their own mood, their own fear, but all are caught up in the vortex of the truth that has just been revealed. The entire summer estate echoes with arguments, sobs mixed with angry looks. The chaos reaches its peak when some guests, unable to bear the pressure, leave the party in silence, leaving behind a space filled with disappointment, pain, and resentment. But the storm does not stop there. The real dangers begin when underground forces take advantage of the chaos to carry out dark schemes. Some people discovered that there were strangers around the estate, security personnel were mobilized to increase, but no one was sure what would happen next. In the chaos, Lily had to face herself, deciding whether to give Cain a chance to explain or completely cut off all ties. Cain, after being exposed, was also forced to face the past and the people he had hurt, including himself. In the following days, the echoes of the chaotic party still haunted Genoa City. One by one, people began to re-examine their relationships, reconsider trust and loyalty, preparing to deal with the upcoming changes. Lily, with the willpower forged through years of pain, stood up to protect herself and the people she loved, no longer letting the past control her life. Kyle, Billy, Jack, Victor, and the rest of the cast are left wondering if the revelation is the end or just the beginning of a new undercurrent that threatens to sweep away the order that once held Genoa City. The return of Christine and Danny brings new hope, helping hands, and untold secrets. In a world where everyone has something to hide, the truth is not a release, but a trigger for a series of events, forcing everyone into difficult choices, where each decision can be exchanged for a very high price. And so, Kyle's worst nightmare, Lily's anger, Dumas/Cain's plots, and the chaos of a Friday the 13th party, become the starting point for a series of dark days where relationships, alliances, and trust are tested to the limit. Where secrets buried for too long are finally confronted with the cruel light of truth. Everywhere there are whispers of a Friday the 13th party at the summer estate of Dumas, a mysterious, powerful name who has just appeared and immediately stirred up the upper class with daring deals and a series of strange provocations. No one really understands Dumas's motives, nor can anyone guess the hidden meaning behind the mass-issued invitations, only that tonight, all eyes in Genoa City will be on that place. For Lily, that invitation is like a challenge she cannot refuse. Because the vague obsessions that have arisen in her heart since the first time she heard Dumas' warm but unfamiliar voice on the phone, then every gesture, every look, and the unusual attention given to her recently, all of it has rekindled in Lily a painful suspicion about a man who used to be her whole world, Cain. Genoa City is not only famous for its billion-dollar deals, but also for its lavish parties filled with traps and lies. But no party has ever made people as uneasy as tonight. From the moment she stepped into the brightly lit estate, Lily could clearly feel the unusual undercurrent flowing under the gorgeous outfits, the polite smiles and the scrutinizing eyes of the guests. The atmosphere was tense, just waiting for a small spark to explode. In a hidden corner, Cain kept looking around silently, his face absent-minded because of the clear premonition of a nightmare that was about to befall him and the entire Abbott family. Cain had heard a lot about Dumas, about the invitations, the silent secrets spread in Victor and Jack's office, but he had never felt so helpless before such a vague yet suffocatingly clear danger. Billy stood on the balcony, a half-burnt cigarette in his hand, his cold eyes directed at the splendid hall. Billy knew exactly what he was facing. The uneasy premonition that only those who had been betrayed many times, who had been on the brink of collapse, could understand, made Billy unable to take his eyes off Dumas's every move, the man who always hid behind a flashy but cold mask. Jack, Victor, even people like Danny or Christine all were present, each with their own calculations, a deep suspicion of Dumas, but no one dared to underestimate his power and danger. The party began with melodious classical music, exquisite dishes were displayed on long tables covered in pure white velvet, red wine shimmered in crystal glasses. But no matter how flashy the appearance, no one could hide the tension in every furtive glance, every meaningful conversation. In the center of the hall, Dumas appeared in a black tuxedo, his hair neatly combed, his face calm but his eyes as sharp as a knife. Dumas moved through the crowd, shaking hands with each person, each glance seemed to sweep across Lily's heart, awakening memories she thought had been buried long ago. When everyone had gathered, Dumas stood in the middle of the room, raising his glass to toast in a deep, provocative voice, full of hints of a night of truths revealed, of secrets exposed, of loyalties tested. Those words fell into the air like sharp knives. One by one people began to glance at each other with suspicion and fear. Lily stood behind, her heart pounding, each word Dumas uttered seemed to cut into the old pain she had tried to forget for so many years. As the minutes passed, the atmosphere in the room became more and more stifling. Lily's every attempt to mingle with the guests failed, as she was drawn into a whirlpool of thoughts about Dumas, every raised eyebrow, every smile, even the way he held his glass reminded her of Cain. She felt like she was in a sleepwalking state, wanting to escape from the truth, but also longing to expose everything, even if it meant tearing her heart apart again. And then the moment that no one had expected but could not avoid had arrived. Dumas invited each person to the center stage, starting with congratulations, honors of prominent figures in the Genoa City business community, but everyone realized that behind each compliment was a trap set, a mental challenge. When it was Lily's turn, Dumas's eyes paused longer than necessary, his deep and cold voice uttering words that were both familiar and strange, as if each sentence was tailored just to stir her heart. Under hundreds of gazes, Lily felt as if she were facing the soul of Cain, her ex-husband who had shattered all her trust with his cold deception and unforgivable betrayal. As if driven by an invisible force, Lily stepped into the middle of the hall, facing Dumas directly. The anger and hurt that had been building up for so long suddenly surged fiercely. Without needing to speak, the entire hall seemed to sense the storm of emotions that was about to explode. Lily pointed at Dumas, questioning him about the secrets he had hidden, about the shady connections in the dark, about the dark plots that had caused so many people to suffer, including herself. The space fell silent, the whispers stopped, leaving only Lily's heavy breathing and the shocked eyes of Dumas, or rather, Cain, who had just been stripped of all his masks in front of the entire upper class of Genoa City. The entire hall was silent for a few seconds before exploding with whispers and arguments. Victor, Jack, Billy, Kyle, Danny, Christine, everyone was stunned. No one could believe that Dumas was Cain, the man who had disappeared from Genoa City, now back in the guise of an incredibly rich and powerful businessman. Kyle was almost broken, because his greatest fears had come true. The underground forces, the power plays would be more dangerous and ruthless than ever. Jack and Billy looked at each other, understanding that from now on, every alliance, every balance in the Abbott family and the entire city would be seriously threatened. While the whole room was still stunned, Victor stepped forward, his eyes unable to hide his anger and anxiety. He questioned Cain about his true motives, about the reason he had to hide his identity, about Dumas's true plans for Genoa City. Cain was calm, although his face showed a hint of panic, but he quickly regained his arrogance, declaring that everything was just a warm-up for a bigger game, where truth, lies, trust and betrayal would no longer have any limits. Arguments, cries, even boos arose everywhere. Some guests panicked and left, others gathered in small groups to discuss, calculate, investigate and be vigilant. Billy could not contain his anger, almost rushed to hit Cain, if Jack had not stopped him in time. Meanwhile, Lily fell into a state of complete paralysis. She did not know whether to cry or laugh at the irony of reality. The man she once loved and hated had now turned into the greatest danger to herself, to this entire city. Not only that, the chaos was pushed to its peak when outside, the security force discovered someone breaking into the estate, a group of strangers who were said to be hunting Dumas/Cain for unpaid debts in the past. The already tense atmosphere was now even more dense with lurking danger. Christine and Danny, who had just returned to Genoa City, immediately joined the security staff to set up a fence to protect the guests. From the yard, flashlights swept through the bushes, the sound of dogs barking echoed, making everyone even more panicked. In the heart of the great hall, Lily finally burst into tears, but they were no longer the weak tears of a betrayed woman, but tears of awakening, of a soul that had just escaped the haunting darkness to see the cruel truth. She knew that from tonight on, her life would take a completely new turn. She will have to fight, not only to protect herself, but also to protect everyone she loves from the sick power games that Cain is initiating. The night ends with a series of events that no one could have predicted. The police are called, security is tightened, and a series of online newspapers spread news about the most shocking expose of the year. Genoa City is pulled into a new vortex of conflict, hatred and mystery, where everyone must choose, forgive or revenge, trust or doubt, stay or go. Cain's return as Dumas is not only a shock to Lily, Kyle and the Abbott clan, but also a warning to the entire Genoa City that sometimes, the ghosts of the past are just waiting for the opportunity to return, bringing with them an undercurrent of hatred and sweeping away all illusions of a peaceful future. And so, that seemingly peaceful summer became an unforgettable milestone in the history of Genoa City, where every character was pushed into a life-and-death confrontation, where those who once loved each other now had to decide whether to forgive or destroy each other. Lily stood there, in the midst of a sea of strangers but all too familiar, knowing that the storm had just begun. She held her head high, facing Cain and the entire city, determined not to let herself be swept away again by lies and betrayal. That Friday the 13th night, a new beginning for all tragedies, passions, and ambitions, a new chronicle for Genoa City had quietly begun like that.